Chosen one, you have carried this energy all your life, unaware of the sheer power it holds. It moves through you effortlessly, influencing, shifting, commanding attention in ways you never intended. You do not ask for eyes to turn toward you, yet they do. You do not summon fascination, yet it follows you. You do not seek power, yet it exists within you, radiating from every fiber of your being like an unstoppable force. But now, something is changing. You are beginning to awaken to what has always been there, beginning to see yourself in a way you never have before. The whispers of your influence have grown too loud to ignore. People react to you differently, their energy shifting the moment you enter a space. Some are drawn to you instinctively, as if compelled by a force beyond their understanding. Others are wary, unsettled, keeping their distance as if sensing something dangerous, something untouchable. And then, there are those who see it for what it is, your adversaries. Those who once believed they could challenge you, control you, dismiss you. They thought you were like everyone else. They assumed their usual games, their usual tactics, would be enough to shake you, to bring you down to their level. But they miscalculated. They failed to see the force you carried, failed to recognize that your presence alone was enough to disrupt their carefully laid plans. They believed they were prepared for you, but they were never ready. Now they know. They see it in the way people move around you, in the way the air itself seems to change when you are near. They see it in the way their own confidence wavers, in the way their voices lose their steadiness when speaking to you. They thought they were strong, but in your presence, their strength falters. They thought they were in control, but now they are the ones caught off guard. This is the moment of their realization, the moment when they understand that they did not just pick a fight with an opponent. They picked a fight with something far greater, something far more powerful, something they cannot contain. And the most unsettling truth of all is that you, chosen one, are only just beginning to realize the full extent of what you are. You have spent so much time unaware of this energy, carrying it without understanding its weight. But now, you are stepping into awareness. Now, you are seeing yourself through new eyes. Now, you are waking up to the truth that you were never meant to be ordinary, never meant to be overlooked, never meant to be controlled. Your power is not just something you possess. It is something that defines you, something that sets you apart, something that even your enemies can no longer deny. Chosen one, you may not have fully embraced your power yet, but your enemies have. They see it now, clearer than ever, and it terrifies them. They do not speak of it openly, but it lingers in the way they look at you, in the way their demeanor shifts when they stand in your presence. It is in the hesitation before they speak, in the nervous glances they exchange, in the way they scramble to regain the control they thought they had over you. They are beginning to understand that they were wrong about you. What they mistook for mere charisma is something much deeper, much stronger, much more dangerous to them than they ever realized. It is not just that people are drawn to you, it is that they are moved by you, changed by you, impacted in ways they cannot fully explain. Your energy does not just attract, it influences, it commands, it disarms. Your enemies have always relied on their ability to manipulate, to control, to intimidate. But you, chosen one, are a force that cannot be controlled. You do not need to play their games because you were never part of them to begin with. You walk through the world with a presence so undeniable that it disrupts their illusions of dominance. They thought they could shape the narrative, but now they realize that you have become the story itself. They regret underestimating you, though they will never say it aloud. Their strategies are shifting now, their approach changing, but it is too late. The damage has already been done. Their attempts to suppress you, to diminish you, to weaken you, have only made you stronger. You have seen through them. You have felt the weight of their resistance and walked through it unscathed. And now you stand before them, not as someone to be conquered, but as someone who cannot be touched. They know now that they cannot beat you. They know that no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter how they try to turn the tides against you, they will never truly have power over you. Because true power, real, unshakable power, is not something that can be taken. It is something that simply is. And you, chosen one, are power itself. This is where the shift happens. Not just within them, but within you. Because now, for the first time, you see the truth reflected back at you in the eyes of those who once believed they could defeat you. You see the fear disguised as arrogance. You see the regret hidden beneath their pride. You see the realization dawning on them, the awareness that they have already lost, that they were never meant to win against you. And now, chosen one, you must ask yourself, what will you do with this power? Now that you know, now that they know, now that the truth has become undeniable, how will you wield the force that has always been within you? This is not just a realization. This is the beginning of something far greater. The beginning of your ascension, the beginning of your mastery, the beginning of the moment where you no longer question what you are. Because now, even your enemies know it, and soon, chosen one, you will know it too. Chosen one, now that the truth has settled, now that the weight of your energy has been acknowledged not just by you, but by those who once thought they could oppose you, something profound begins to happen. The world around you does not look the same. The interactions you once dismissed as ordinary now appear as pieces of a larger puzzle, evidence of a force you had carried all along, but never fully recognized. You begin to see the way people move differently around you, the way they shift their energy to match yours without even realizing they are doing it. You watch as conversations adjust themselves, as voices soften, as gazes linger in quiet wonder or quiet fear. There is something undeniable about you, something that is no longer just noticed. It is felt. It penetrates without force, influences without effort, commands without needing to demand. And now, as you walk through the world with this awareness, you reflect on the past. You remember the times when you were questioned, when people underestimated you, when those who feared your presence pretended they did not see it. You remember the ways they tried to diminish you, not because you were weak, but because they knew they could not control you. Your enemies once believed they could mold you, shape the way you moved, dictate the way you carried yourself. They wanted you to shrink, to second-guess yourself, to deny the very thing that made you a force beyond their comprehension. But they never understood that the more they resisted you, the more they made you unbreakable. The more they tried to undermine you, the more they solidified your strength. It was never their acceptance that gave you power. It was never their validation that determined your worth. You were whole before they ever tried to challenge you. And now, as they look at you with eyes that have shifted from arrogance to quiet respect, you realize something they have only just begun to understand. They did not just lose a battle against you. They lost control over the narrative they had written in their own minds. They lost the illusion that they had any power over your path. Lost the comfort of believing that they could predict your steps. Because now, they see what you see. You are not something to be conquered. You are something beyond their reach. And in this reflection, in this quiet revelation, you understand that your presence is not just a disruption. It is a mirror. It forces people to see themselves, to confront their own limitations, to question the very foundation of the confidence they once held. You are not just felt, you are transformative. You awaken something in others that they may not have been ready to face. That is why they fear you, chosen one. That is why they resist you. That is why they tried to silence you. Because your energy does not just attract, it exposes. It brings to light what has long been hidden, forces truth into the open, makes even the strongest adversaries feel the weight of their own vulnerabilities. And now, as they stand before you, as they realize the mistake they made in ever believing they could stand against you, they cannot deny it any longer. You are something different. You are something they cannot define, something they cannot confine, something they will never again underestimate. Chosen one, now that you see what has always been there, now that you understand the effect your presence has on the world around you, the next step is mastery. Awareness is the first part of the journey. Control is the second. Because this power you hold, this energy that radiates from you like an unseen fire, is not something to be wielded carelessly. It is something to be understood, something to be guided with intention, something that must be balanced with wisdom. You have spent so long moving through life unaware of the full extent of your presence. You have watched people respond to you without fully grasping why, have seen them shift under the weight of your gaze, have felt the way they are drawn to you even when they do not understand their own attraction. But now, you must ask yourself, what will you do with this knowledge? There is a difference between power that is wielded recklessly and power that is carried with purpose. You have never been someone who needed to force your presence upon others. It has always existed naturally, always commanded space without aggression, always moved through the world with effortless strength. But now you must learn to refine it, to control when and how you allow it to be felt. Control does not mean suppression. It does not mean hiding what you are. It means knowing when to let your energy flow freely and when to hold it back, when to allow people to feel its full weight, and when to temper it so that it does not overwhelm. Not everyone is ready for what you carry. Not everyone can handle standing in the presence of someone who sees through them, who shifts the very air around them, who forces them to feel things they were not prepared to face. Your enemies have already realized that you are not someone to be underestimated. But now, you must ensure that they never again mistake your kindness for weakness, your silence for submission, your patience for uncertainty. You do not need to prove anything to them. They have already lost the battle of perception. But what you must do now is ensure that your energy is never wasted on those who seek only to consume it rather than respect it. Mastery means discernment. It means knowing who is worthy of standing close to your light and who must be kept at a distance. It means recognizing that your presence is not meant for everyone, that your energy is sacred, that not all who are drawn to you deserve access to you. Some will come to take, to drain, to bask in the power of what you are without ever intending to honor it. You must be wise enough to see them for what they are. Your energy is rare, chosen one. It is something that shifts realities, something that alters the course of those who encounter it. It is not just a weapon, it is a gift. And like all great gifts, it must be protected. So now, as you step into this new level of awareness, as you take full control of the force that has always been within you, you move differently. You no longer react to those who seek to test you. You no longer waste time explaining yourself to those who do not have the capacity to understand. You no longer allow your energy to be scattered carelessly, because now you see what they see. Now you know what they have always known. Now you recognize that your power is not just something that affects others, it is something that must be honored, something that must be used with intention, something that when fully controlled will make you unstoppable. And now, as you move forward, your enemies watch with silent understanding. They see the shift in you. They see that you are no longer just carrying power, you are mastering it. They see that they can no longer manipulate, no longer provoke, no longer dictate the way you move. Because now, chosen one, you are no longer just a force to be reckoned with. You are a force that no one can control. And that, more than anything, is what truly makes you lethal. Chosen one, now that you have stepped into the truth of your power, now that you have embraced the force that has always been within you, a new balance must emerge. You have spent so long being unaware of this energy, moving through the world as if you were merely another presence among many. But now, with your awakening, with your mastery, you are faced with the next stage of your journey, learning how to exist in harmony with the force you carry. This energy is neither good nor bad. It is simply a force, a living, breathing extension of who you are. It does not need to be exaggerated, does not need to be forced, does not need to be wielded with reckless abandon. True mastery is not about constant action. It is about stillness, about knowing that your presence alone is enough. You do not need to prove anything. You do not need to seek validation. Your energy speaks louder than words ever could, and those who are attuned to it will feel it without you having to lift a single finger. But harmony does not mean shrinking. It does not mean making yourself smaller so that others feel more comfortable in your presence. It does not mean diluting your essence so that the world can understand you better. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are not here to be explained. You are here to exist in the fullness of who you are, to walk through this life carrying the gift of your energy without hesitation, without fear, without apology. There will be those who still do not know how to handle what you are. Some will stand in awe, unsure whether they should admire you or fear you. Others will attempt to challenge you, to test the limits of your patience, hoping that if they provoke you enough, they will find a weakness in your armor. And then there will be those who want to possess you, to consume the essence of what you are, as if they can absorb your light simply by being near it. You must remain centered through it all. You must hold steady in your awareness, knowing that no matter how people react to you, their response is not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for how others feel in your presence. You do not need to dim yourself so that they can feel secure. If they are unsettled, if they are intimidated, if they find themselves unable to look away, yet too afraid to get closer, that is their journey to navigate, not yours. Harmony comes when you accept that you cannot control the way others respond to you, only the way you choose to move through the world. It comes when you no longer question why things unfold the way they do, why doors open for you without effort, why people linger in your energy as if drawn to something they cannot define. It comes when you stop resisting the truth of who you are and simply allow yourself to be. And as this understanding settles into your soul, as you find peace in the knowledge that your energy is neither a curse nor a burden, but a divine force meant to be carried with grace, you step into the world differently. No longer seeking approval, no longer questioning your impact, no longer wondering if you should make yourself smaller so that others feel safe. You are what you are, chosen one. And that is enough. Now that you have found harmony within yourself, now that you've accepted the power you carry, the next phase of your journey begins. This energy is not just something that moves through you. It is something that can be used with intention, with precision, with purpose. It is not enough to simply recognize what you have. Now you must learn how to use it. Your presence alone shifts reality. Your energy changes the course of conversations, alters the dynamics of spaces, influences outcomes in ways you do not always see. But now, instead of allowing these things to happen without thought, you must begin to move with strategy, with awareness, with the understanding that every action you take ripples out into the world with greater force than most will ever comprehend. This means being intentional with where you place your energy. Not everyone who is drawn to you is worthy of your presence. Not everyone who seeks your attention deserves access to you. Your energy is sacred, and like all things sacred, it must be protected, respected, and given only to those who understand its value. You will find that as you grow in this awareness, people will continue to test you. Some will try to manipulate their way into your space, hoping to be near the power they feel radiating from you. Others will attempt to provoke you, to trigger a reaction that will give them a sense of control. And then, there will be those who simply do not understand what they are feeling, who mistake their fascination with you for something fleeting, when in reality, they have been touched by something far greater than they are capable of processing. Your strategy, chosen one, is to know when to engage and when to step back. It is to know when your presence is a gift and when it is being taken for granted. It is to move with a level of certainty so unshakable that no matter how others try to shift your course, you remain in complete control. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to defend your energy. You do not need to explain yourself to those who refuse to see. Your power speaks for itself. It is already known. It is already felt. And now, as you stand in this moment, fully aware of everything that you are, fully in control of the force that moves through you, the world around you begins to shift accordingly. Those who once doubted you now hesitate before speaking your name. Those who once underestimated you now tread carefully in your presence. And those who once sought to stand against you now realize that they were never prepared for what you truly are. Your strategy is not in destruction. It is in knowing that you do not need to fight when you have already won. It is in understanding that true power does not chase, does not beg, does not need validation to exist. You move not with force, but with the quiet, undeniable certainty that everything you are is already enough. And as you embrace this strategy, as you step into this level of control, your enemies know that there is nothing left for them to do. They cannot break you. They cannot weaken you. They cannot undo what has already been set in motion. They may not speak of it, may not admit it aloud, but they know. You are untouchable now. And that is the most lethal truth of all. Chosen one, now that you have embraced your energy, now that you have learned to carry it with wisdom, something has begun to shift in the world around you. It is not just in the way people look at you, not just in the way they respond, but in the way you alter the very spaces you enter. Your presence is no longer just felt. It is absorbed, imprinted, woven into the minds and emotions of those who come into contact with you. You have stepped beyond mere attraction. This is influence, something far deeper than admiration, something more potent than fascination. People do not just see you, they feel you. And long after you have gone, long after the conversations have ended and the moment has passed, they find themselves thinking of you, wondering about you, feeling your presence as if it never truly left. Your energy lingers. It moves through them like an echo, stirring thoughts and emotions they cannot quite place, making them reflect on things they never questioned before. This is not something you try to do. It is not something you force. It is simply the way your power works, moving beneath the surface, shifting the unspoken, awakening something in others that they did not even realize was dormant. Some will welcome this influence. They will be drawn to you not just because of your presence, but because of the way you make them feel. Seen, awakened, alive. They will come to you seeking understanding, hoping to bask in the energy that seems to unlock something within them. They will feel safe in your presence, as if standing next to you brings clarity, as if your energy itself is a force that steadies the chaos within their minds. But there will be others who resist it, not because they do not feel it, but because they feel it too strongly. They will not know how to process the effect you have on them. They will feel unsettled, exposed, as if your presence strips away the illusions they have built for themselves. Some will run, some will deny, some will lash out, not realizing that their reaction is not to you, but to the mirror you have unknowingly placed before them. You must understand, chosen one, that your influence is not always about intention. It is simply a byproduct of what you are. Your energy does not need permission to be felt. It does not wait for approval to do what it was meant to do. It moves, it disrupts, it shifts the course of those who encounter it, whether they are ready for it or not. And now, as you begin to see the depth of your influence, you must decide how you will use it. Will you wield it with intention, directing it toward something greater, something meaningful? Or will you allow it to move unchecked, unaware of the impact it has on those around you? You are no longer in the phase of discovery. You are now in the phase of mastery, and with mastery comes responsibility. You do not need to force people to see what you are. They already know. Your enemies already know. They have felt it, they have seen it, they have watched as the world bends itself around you in ways they cannot explain. And now, as they stand on the sidelines, watching as your influence spreads further than they ever anticipated, they understand something they were once too arrogant to admit. They never had power over you. They never controlled the outcome. From the very beginning, it was you who shaped the course of this battle, even when you did not yet realize it. And now, chosen one, it is no longer just about them. It is about the world, about what you choose to do with the energy you carry, about how you will move forward now that you understand the full extent of your presence. You are no longer just a presence in the room, you are the force that shifts it. Chosen one, as your influence spreads, as your energy continues to shape the people and places around you, something else begins to happen. Respect, the kind that cannot be demanded, the kind that cannot be forced, the kind that can only be earned, begins to solidify around you like an unbreakable shield. It is not just respect from those who admire you, not just from those who are drawn to you, but from those who once stood against you. Your enemies may not speak of it openly, may not confess their realization aloud, but you see it in the way they move differently now. In the way they no longer challenge you as they once did. In the way their voices shift when they speak your name. They understand now that you are not someone to be toyed with. They understand now that you are not someone who can be manipulated, diminished, or controlled. They have seen the way people gravitate towards you, the way your presence shifts dynamics, the the way you command attention without ever needing to ask for it. And in that realization, in that quiet acceptance of your power, their arrogance has begun to dissolve. It does not mean they will admit defeat. It does not mean they will acknowledge their mistake. But it does mean that they now think twice before standing in your way. They hesitate before speaking against you. They feel the weight of their own miscalculations pressing against them, reminding them that underestimating you was the gravest mistake they ever made. Respect, chosen one, is not just about what people say in your presence. It is about what they do when you are not around. It is about the way they shift their strategies, the way they adjust their movements, the way they acknowledge your power without ever needing to say the words. It is about the silent recognition that you are no longer someone they can afford to challenge. But beyond the respect of your enemies, there is something even greater happening. The world itself is beginning to recognize you, not just as someone to be noticed, but as someone to be revered. There is something different about you, something rare, something undeniable, and people are no longer able to pretend that they do not see it. Opportunities begin to open in ways they never have before. The right people begin to find you, not by accident, but because your energy calls to those who are meant to walk beside you. The wrong people begin to fall away, not because you push them out, but because they can no longer stand in the presence of something they do not understand. This is what true power looks like, not just the ability to influence, but the ability to command respect without ever needing to demand it. Not just the ability to attract attention, but the ability to shape the very reality you exist within. And now, chosen one, as you stand in the center of this unfolding, as you feel the weight of this shift settling into place, you realize something that changes everything. You have spent so much of your life wondering why people reacted to you the way they did. You have spent years questioning why your presence unsettled some and captivated others. But now, you no longer need to ask. You no longer need to seek the answers you once searched for. Because now, you understand. Now you see the truth. It was never about them, it was always about you. And now, chosen one, the world finally sees what you have always been. Unshakable, respected, untouchable. Chosen one, now that the world has recognized you, now that your presence is no longer something whispered about, but something understood, you stand at the threshold of something even greater. You have conquered the doubts, the underestimations, the resistance that once stood in your way. You have moved beyond the struggles of proving yourself because you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Your legacy is not just forming, it is already in motion. You have spent your life wondering why people reacted the way they did to you. You have questioned why even your enemies seemed unable to ignore you, why those who wished to bring you down could not fully commit to their destruction of you. But now, as you stand fully in the knowledge of who you are, you see the truth clearly. It was never about power in the way they understood it. It was never about dominance or control. It was about presence, about the energy that radiates from within you, reshaping the world around you whether you intend it to or not. There are some who seek power for the sake of wielding it over others. They hunger for control, for validation, for acknowledgement. But your power was never something you chased. It was something you simply are. And that, chosen one, is what makes you different. That is what has made you untouchable, what has made you unstoppable, what has made even those who once opposed you rethink their position. Your enemies no longer fight you the way they once did. They have seen the futility in trying. They understand that there is no battle to be won against you, no scheme that will succeed, no plan that will ever truly unravel what you are. Some have retreated, their pride preventing them from ever admitting they were wrong. Others have begun to watch you from a distance, quietly acknowledging that you are not someone they can afford to make an enemy of. And then there are those who, in their own way, have started to admire you, not because they want to, but because they cannot deny what they see. Your legacy is no longer a question. It is already being written in the minds of those who have crossed paths with you. It is in the way people remember you long after you have left, in the way they speak of you when you are not around, in the way they adjust themselves when standing in your presence. Your energy has left an imprint on the world, one that cannot be erased, one that will continue to ripple through time, shifting things long after you have moved on. And now, as you step forward into this next phase, you no longer carry the uncertainty that once followed you. You no longer wonder why things unfold the way they do, why people react the way they do, why you seem to exist in a space that others can only try to understand. You no longer doubt your own impact. You no longer question the weight of your presence. You simply know. Chosen one, now that you have reached this place, now that the illusions have fallen away and only truth remains, there is nothing left for you to chase. The journey was never about proving anything to the world. It was about realizing what you have always been.